Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. Today, Joe and I are going over the opponent preview for the second head-to-head matchup with the Chicago Bears as the Packers look to wrestle back the NFC North lead. They're all important. You only got 3 games left in the season, but this is really the last big game on the Packers regular season schedule. We don't know what the Ravens are going to be by the time the Packers play them in another week. And then the Vikings they've just put 2 key contributors on IR and they won't be able to, in Metellus and Grenard on IR. So that just further complicates things for the Vikings, no matter how much better they're looking in the recent time. But that's for another week. This week, it's all about the Packers and the Bears one more time. Soon to be Indiana Bears, potentially.
I don't
But
know. I'm liking the Des Moines Bears.
that would be freaking hilarious, dude. Like, change the orange to corn yellow.
Well, you just do it like a mix of Hawkeye Cyclone colors.
Yeah.
So have like maybe the scarlet and gold or gold or black and scarlet. That would actually look pretty dope. Black and scarlet together.
Yeah. But I was pretty dour and down after the Packers game on Sunday. It was unfortunate they lost the game, but really it was what they lost in the game more than the game itself. And obviously, the news was expected on Micah Parsons. He did tear his ACL. The Packers did just put him on IR today. We're recording this Wednesday night. And he's out for the rest of the 2025 season. That's going to complicate things for the Packers. But the very good news out of Sunday's game is that the other injuries don't look to be nearly as bad as, initially potentially prognosticated. The Ironically, the worst for wear out of that is Evan Williams with an MCL sprain. I know he's saying that it's not as bad as the one he suffered in college, but an MCL sprain is still an MCL sprain. I do think he's going to miss at least this week, potentially next week against the Ravens. And I just put that as a guy who, he's an instinctive player, he's a field player, but he's not a plus athlete when he's healthy. And we've seen him have some issues getting over the top of coverage from deep half. And I just don't see the need to, have him out there at a compromised level of athleticism when he already has his limitations in range. And you don't want him hesitating or second guessing when he comes up to support the run and potentially worsening that injury. I do subscribe to Jacob Westendorf's if you're cleared to play, you're cleared to play, but I just don't think he'll be cleared. It would be more of like a I can fight through it kind of thing. Because even on the
I
short
guess
end,
it depends on how severe it is. I know they said it's an MCL. I didn't hear what the severity is of it, but
all he said is that it's not as bad as the one in college, and that's not a great barometer because he tore it in college, basically. So it's like, yeah. But even on like a grade 1, it's still like a 1 to 2/2 to 3, depending on like how tender it
and
feels
that's
and
what I was
stuff.
kind
Yeah,
of getting at is we don't know the severity, and most of the time they're like 3-week injuries up to, you're going to deal with it all season long, but how is your pain tolerance going to handle it?
yeah.
And like Jordan did last year, we got to throw a knee brace on there, so how are you going to handle the knee brace? But I don't know. The Packers are very conservative when it comes to injuries anyway, so it's going to be up in the air anyway.
Yeah, Zach Tom is sort of in the same thing. His comments after the game were kind of similar to Evans, where he said like, "I thought it was really bad when I did it, but turns out it's not. It's." And he was more. The team and him seem more open to the possibility of him playing. Lafleur. It's not it'll be hard for him to go. It was more of a we're leaving the door open. We'll see where he's at. But we do have contingency plans working. A little more on that as we get into the injury report. And then the big one is that Christian Watson participated and he all but said he plans to play on Saturday, which, is just honestly, the irony of it is like his going down is what sort of started the cascade of that game going off the rails. But it is just really good that he's looking like he's going to be able to play as soon as this Saturday night. And in a you like I said, maybe you don't see Tom next week. The good thing for the Packers is that these next two games are against teams with not great pass rushes. So like, I know some people are kind of down on Kennard, but I'm like, he came off cold off the bench. I know he's playing in the 6-0 line set, but he's there to run block and maybe kind of tag a guy as a helper and pass pro in the pass plays they run out of that set. So he's coming off the bench cold in Denver, hostile environment against the best sack production, pass rush in the league. And I thought he played better than Rasheed Walker. And I know that's not a high bar to get over, but it's like, people are saying like, oh, does Morgan need to prep? I think Morgan's prepping because they're one more, and they're one more like step in a hole kind of thing from, especially at Soldier Field, from Morgan needing to play. I do think this kind of puts a damper on like him being able to step in at left tackle if Rasheed struggles, but who knows? Like they gotta win this game. You gotta, like, I know that they don't have to win the division to get in, but it'd be really nice to have that in your back pocket. Second seed is still very much on the table. And there is,
Unless you subscribe the history as a, what do they call it, history as a flat circle or whatever, and you do subscribe to this being an exact replica of the 2010 season, and the Packers sneak in, make their run, beat the Bears in the championship game, and go to the Super Bowl. So
while it could be, but also with there being 7 teams, it's just really hard to win 4 games on the road. Like 4 straight games on the road, 5 if you count the week 18 game kind of thing. So, there's still things in their control. And I know that the Packers got kicked in the dick last week, but let's see how you bounce back kind of thing. But the rest of the injury report, so Tuesday was a walkthrough. The irony is like this is like prepping for a Thursday night game, but we're actually getting like real quote unquote practices, unlike in a Thursday night scenario where it's like simulated and walkthrough and simulated walkthrough kind of thing. So it was good that there were a bunch of DNPs on Tuesday's walkthrough, but most of those were not a surprise. The DNPs on Tuesday were Josh Jacobs, who is undoubtedly just getting rested. He did kind of shine some light that, like, yeah, he dinged his knee up a little bit when Hafunga concussed Josh Wiley on that early third down play. But, he had his best run of the season at the beginning of the second half of the game. And I think LaFleur is just going to keep it on limited snaps. Unfortunately, Marshawn Lloyd, they did the thing where he took Parsons' roster spot today, but that just allows them to put him back on IR without it being like door shut season ending IR. So what that creates the possibility for is if the Packers make it to the second round of the playoffs, he could play in the second round of the playoffs because he would be eligible to come off IR at that point. It's a very narrow thing. It's just a bummer. It's just a darn shame that, he has been so injury prone. He can't shake this issue, even when there was such promise that, he was back at practice and stuff. Honestly, this just feels like a punt to next year. Try and re-strengthen, refigure this thing out. And, he's kind of playing for his NFL career at that point. But I think that does close the book on Lloyd for this season. Parsons was an obvious DNP. But then on Tuesday, you had Zach Tom, Lucas, Christian, Josh Wiley, Dontavian, and Evan Williams were DNPs. And flash forward to Wednesday. So, like I said, Parsons goes on IR, so he's kind of off the list. But of those DNPs, you have Dontavian, Christian, Lucas all get upgraded to limited participants. Jaden Reed did get downgraded, but it was a personal family matter. I shouldn't say family matter. I don't know what the personal matter was, but he was, he missed practice. The team seemed to know about it, kind of thing and stuff. No like issue there. And the other bit of good news is that John Williams, our rookie 7th round draft pick, had his 21-day open. Other bits of good news. Chris Brooks, well, that's not good. Chris Brooks was a limited participant both days. Kennard was a limited participant. I feel like that's sort of a first, he hadn't played that many snaps in a while kind of thing. And so the body's a little more sore on coming back the next week. Colin Oliver remains a limited participant, and Savion has been a limited participant this week. So good to see some guys either progressing during the week or in Savion's case that he's back to practice. And then in the full participant realm, Brenton Cox remains a full participant. Big news with Parsons going on IR. Same with Oliver, honestly, because Oliver is more of that type of speed rusher that Parsons is, and that they continue to progress and continue to practice. Really good seeing Golden is listed as a full participant. Jordan is a full participant, and one name not listed, especially with Brooks being a limited and what's Jacobs being. I do think he'll play, but it's sort of like they'll massage him through the week. It's good to see that Emmanuel Wilson is no longer listed with an illness at this point. So, like you did mention, Pierre Strong is out of elevations. Oh, great radio. Hold on.
And that's the only running back on.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the only running
squad.
back on the practice squad. So, they do have the option of signing him to the active roster. I don't think that would be the case, but never leave it out of the realm of possibility, especially if it's just to nurse you through a week. But I think they'll be okay getting through this week. And yeah, the other one, Josh Wiley, it does not look like he's going to get through concussion protocol if he hasn't participated in practice at all this week so far. So he'll likely be out. On the Bears side of things, the two big ones to watch are Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. Both were back-to-back DNPs to start the week. And that's a big issue for them if both are not able to play, because the Bears were already without Odunze the first time the Packers played, and Burden had a solid game against the Packers, so losing another weapon would be kind of a bummer, especially because DJ Moore is just so much of an afterthought in this offense right now. Otherwise, not too many. The only other name of note on their injury report is that Tremaine Edmonds has his 21-day window open. I'm not sure what the likelihood of him playing is. I know that when we played the Bears the first time, Edwards was activated or had his 21-day open off IR, and then he did come and play the Packers that Sunday. I don't know if Edmonds is in the same boat. Oh, I lied. One downgrade for the Bears is DeAndre Swift popped up with a groin issue on Wednesday, so that'll be one. I know Manungai is like, they're more, I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but the way he runs is more effective against the Packers because he's the inside pounder type, whereas Swift is more of like a slasher, but he is their starting running back, and he and Manungai are one of those quote-unquote thunder and lightning duos, and so losing him would potentially take some steam out of their offense as well. But the big thing for the Packers is how they're going to approach attacking Caleb Williams and this Bears offense without Parsons this time. And we've seen that from this team. We've basically seen this same Packers defense face the Bears twice last season with Caleb Williams. Actually, really only once, because the second game, a bunch of starters didn't play or didn't play most of that game in Week 18.
Sure.
Yeah. Joe also did not participate in that game very much. The literal fever dream game for Joe. But in all honesty, I think on defense, the Packers, I think this is one where it's going to drive a lot of people nuts, but you're going to see, especially if Lucas can play, Lucas, Rashawn, Inagbare, it's going to be contain the pocket, and then you send one of Quayer, Edge in there to just light him up and try and get him down and stuff. And the way Caleb got most of his success is, someone, often Micah, would get pressure, but they'd lose pocket integrity, and Caleb would run out, roll out to a side, and create a play downfield. And while in the end it did benefit you because he still can't make reads, he can't go through his progressions quick, and he doesn't make the right reads at times, but you don't want him living outside the pocket. You want to make him stay in the pocket, have to go through those reads, make him have to sift through your defense and prove that he can do quote unquote quarterbacking things. And obviously, you don't want him to just sit back there all day, but at the same time, you do want him in the pocket. So, really curious to see how the Packers play it. But as it was in 2 weeks ago, this is again a situation where it's like, go score, Packers, go score on offense. You can't have what happened. You have to do like you did against the Bears a couple weeks ago. You can't have a repeat where you get down to the red zone or the near red zone so many times and you're settling for field goals because you have mental mistakes, physical errors, penalties, whatever. That has to go. You have to score touchdowns. You have to put Chicago in a hole and take their run game away from them and force them to have to pass to get back in this game.
I wonder if they may play more of a 4 linebacker set at times. That way they could rush one of Quay or Edgerrin with like a McDuffie while having either Hopper or Welch out there with Quay, do it that way. Because, yeah, without Micah, you've lost your main pass rush that's going to move around. I mean, you're still going to get a little bit of pass rush from Rashawn, no matter what people are saying. He still does generate somewhat of a pass rush. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been amazing. And of course, it's not going to look anything like Micah's, but it's still generating enough push. Britton Cox, I fully believe Cox will play this week. He's been full participant or listed as full participant the last 2 days. Unless there's a major setback, I do see him. He's probably going to take the spot that opens up when Lloyd officially goes to IR. But the 4 linebacker set, I think, would help them out a little bit in it. It doesn't cause both Quay and Edge to be the main rusher, and then you lose contain on like a linebacker or not a linebacker, a tight end, or a Caleb getting out into the wild. But it also allows you to generate a little bit more of the A-gap blitzes that Micah was doing there for a bit. So that's where I'm set. I'm wondering, and Hafley with his sly ways said, well, we have plans on what to do without Micah, and I'm wondering if he might slip in some 4 linebacker sets.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm really curious to see if it's like you said, if it's a personnel change. I do just think you're going to see a lot more of the stuff he did last year, where it's a lot more of the sim pressures. Honestly, and I know people are like, oh, well, he had Micah, but I didn't like that he went away from those so often during the season when you had Micah, because it's like, why settle, I guess is the way I would put it. Like, yeah, you have Micah, but you can utilize him in ways outside of just go get the quarterback kind of thing. And it's worked a bunch this season. And, you know, I not they're not going to be better because you don't lose a Hall of Fame caliber player and get better on a side of the ball. But I do think Hafley is better when he's not complacent as a designer and a scheme designer and play caller. And the most effective this Packers defense is it wasn't even that he was like all out blitzing or anything like that. It was just that, especially against a quarterback who doesn't process well and doesn't think quick, get through reads quickly like Caleb, this is the kind of thing where you screw around with his eye discipline, you screw around with his pre-snap reads, and you can run him into pressure, run him into mistakes. And you know that Denver game was a repeat of so many instances: not scoring touchdowns in the red zone, not converting interceptions like the Giants game from a few weeks. You get your opportunities this week, you can't let them slip through your hands. Any one of those interceptions changes the complexion of that game on so many levels. So,
and according to stats, this Bears team is not hard to score on.
right.
According to Pro Football Reference, they're 21st out of 32 teams. So they're going to give up points. So you've got to take them where you can get them.
Yep, exactly. That's really where I'm looking at this game, is like, you just got to take advantage of opportunities and score. That was, even with Parsons, that was the best defense this team was going to have, was to go and put points on the board, because without Micah, you need to score to protect your defense. You don't want this defense to have to play in a back and forth kind of game. But with Micah, that was our frustration, is it's like, go score so Micah doesn't have to play the run. We've seen that he definitely can play the run all season, but why force it if you don't have to? And even more so now, just like I said, with in terms of like what games do they need to win, should they win, all that kind of shit. It's like you've lost all of your leeway at this point of the season. You lost your leeway in terms of like your team record, because you lost stupid games to the Browns and to the Panthers. You lost your leeway on defense because you lost your best player on that side of the ball by far to injury. So this team, and I'm not saying they need to be like incredibly desperate, but there needs to be a level of urgency that we need to see out of them this week. Like I said, you don't have to run around like your pants are on fire or anything like that. You do need to keep a level head. Kingsley, Nixon, like, keep your head on your shoulders, but also at the same time, like, you've already proved you're better team. You're the better team. Like you said, they're still the better team even without Micah, especially if Watson is able to go. And even if Tom can't go, like, I still think it like I said, it does help that this week and next week against Baltimore, you're playing two teams that cannot rush the passer without blitzing. And even when they blitz, they're not that good at rushing the passer. So you've got to just, like you said, take advantage of your opportunities and make things happen. The one thing I'm really curious about is on offense, they have found something with that 6-0 line look, and I'm really curious how they go about still utilizing that unit with Kennard having to start. And I know you threw out like, does Monk get the snaps? My thought is like, do you leave Kennard as the sixth offensive lineman and have Morgan go in at right tackle for those snaps kind of thing? I know it's a lot of moving of deck chairs, but it's like, it's just an option, because, or does Morgan play the tackle? I don't know what they'll do. I'm just really curious to see how they'll approach it, because they've had some really good things with Kennard on the outside, and I have no idea what Morgan's practicing during the week and stuff, but I really doubt they have a backup 6-0 lineman like in regular practice. So it's like, what is the easier way to approach it? Is it easier to cross train a second guy at that? Or is it just, when you play, it's like in college when they do the lineman over shit, and like your right tackle goes and plays left tackle, bumps the left tackle out and stuff. So really curious to see how they do it. Knowing my luck with questioning these kind of things, they're just not going to play 6-0 line this weekend. It's a moot point, but
They've got some leeway with things, because I mean, you still got Donovan Jennings on active roster. You still have Monk on active roster. I get what you're saying with do do they slide Kennard over to play the six and let Jordan take, but I don't think they'll do that, just because if by chance they have to replace Walker, then let's not confuse Morgan any more than he already is on some things. But I think there's guys that they could throw out there. And honestly, with Wiley out, I have a feeling that they're going to use a call up on one of the tight ends they have on the practice squad. And which one was it that was it Dabney
I think it's
that we
only
were looking
Dabney
at
at
that
this point.
was,
It's only
huh?
Dabney. Dabney's the only tight end at this point.
No, you got that McCastles guy,
No,
or
he's gone.
McCallan Castles.
Oh, I lied. You're right. He is still there.
I'm
Maybe
looking right
Castle?
at it. Quano, right there.
His fucking
But
made up double names. My brain just eliminated it from my eyesight.
I think when everybody looked at him and we were looking at him, he seemed to be more of a Musgraves type, whereas Dabney was more of your inline blocker type. So I wonder if maybe he gets a call up and then he could play that sixth offensive lineman, similar to what they did with Mercedes Lewis. So uh,
Honestly, there's a chance that both of them are up. Like there is a decent possibility that both of them are elevated, but yeah, we'll see. I don't have much
maybe.
I don't have much more. There's a reason that even like before we knew how bad or not bad those four injury, the Parsons, Watson, Tom, and Williams injuries were. There's a reason this game opened with the Packers favored 1.5 or 2.5, but whichever it was. The fact that the Packers were favored shows like, yeah, the Packers are still the better team, even if they're down like four of their top five players on their roster. This overall roster talent is still better, and Jordan is that much better of a quarterback that it's like he tilts the game in the Packers' favor enough. So I don't have too much more on that side of it. I'm ready for over unders if you are.
Uh, yeah, I guess the only thing that I'll add is LaFleur's definitely going to have to trust Jordan in the game. I know that the early indications is there's supposed to be like 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts for Saturday, so they may have to lean on the run a little bit more. But also don't be afraid to throw it. Just be smart with how you do throw it. Now, I'm not a weatherman, although I could probably play one with as accurate as they are sometimes. But yeah, supposedly that there's like a wind advisory set up for Saturday in the Chicagoland area. So you just got to be smart with how you do it. Obviously, you don't want to rely on the crippled leg of McManus. So score touchdowns when you can score them, and overall just be smart about things. Don't be afraid to adjust.
Yep, that's what I've got on the docket too.
Never tell me the odds.
Take us away.
Okay. So I again forgot to do these before recording because for some reason it didn't feel like it today was Wednesday. So my first one, and I've got some of these set a little bit low just because of
The uncertainty, yeah.
uncertainty, and on top of that, the names that are being brought up that are coming back. So the possibilities are there. So the first one I got is Christian Watson over under 45.5 receiving.
I'm going yes, and I'm just
It's
because
over under, Mike. How asleep are you?
I'm looking at the last one again. That's why. Oh God, I'm going over it just because even if his ribs are a little sore, Watson is just such a terrible matchup for them, especially because Kyler Gordon is on IR and Jalen Johnson is great, but Watson can run away from him. So I'm going 65.
I'm going to say under, but it's going to be at that 45 mark. I'm hoping that LaFleur kind of stands by the fact that he said that we got to get Matthew Golden involved a little bit more, and that'll help out. And then, like I said, we went through the injury report. Savion is limited, so maybe he's starting to come back from his injuries. Jaden Reed's back; he's looking pretty good. I'm hoping that the ball can again be spread around a little bit more to open things up. With the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the defense, the playbook on the offense is going to have to open up no matter what the weather conditions are. So hopefully the ball can get spread around a little bit more on that. So yeah, I'm going to go at 45. Next one is Josh Jacobs over under 55.5 rushing.
I'm going under just because I think that they're going to try and limit his snaps. Wilson's off the injury report. I know Brooks is kind of on there, but we did see Brooks get utilized as a rusher more. And if Savion comes back, he's probably going to get some carries to take some load off of Josh. I just think that kind of like the receiving game, because of Josh's injury status, LaFleur is going to limit his snaps and try to like spread the ball around in the rushing game.
And see, I'm going to go over because even though they said that they had him on limited snaps last week, he still put up like what 73 yards
Yep.
on the ground. I was gonna look at it real quick just so I wasn't sounding like an idiot when I said it. I think it was 73. But
You're right.
so even with that, I think that there's I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago when they first played. The Bears' run defense isn't the greatest in the world. So if they can attack that, and it seems like Josh got angrier when he got injured. And the angrier he was, the better he was in his quote unquote limited snaps last week. So I think he's going to go over. I think he'll hit at least 65, maybe 73 again. This one's kind of hoping, just because I'm hoping he can shut that Ike Packers or whatever his name is up. Over under half a sack for Lucas.
I think if he plays and it seems like he's tracking to, I think yes, because I think Lucas will get the interior snaps, so he's gonna have his chances.
And I say yes to, like I said, I'm really hoping that he can come back, play well, and I'm getting tired of these guys that are. A lot of it is clickbaity. There's no doubt about it. It's clickbaity. They know that they're going to get interactions because of the shit stuff that they say, and so I'm tired of hearing, oh well, Rashawn's a bust, Lucas is a bust, this one's a bust. Well, no, they're not. Lucas even came back at the guy and said, I played a handful of snaps for the first time in 5 games.
Yep.
So, all right. Am I at my last one? Yeah, I'm at my last one. This one's the obvious one, thrown back on here again. Does Matthew Golden get his first touchdown this week?
Do I need to start saying yes since I've been saying no and it hasn't helped?
It hasn't been helping. And
Yes.
I'm going to go yes because like I said, I got to track with the kid, and I do think that they are seeing that. Yeah, we got to get this guy involved more because he's special, and I know guys like Brian Maffey and that roll their eyes at that stuff, but the kid is special. He's got athletic ability. He's got football ability. The only thing he doesn't have is the 6'2" frame.
And Mafi did say that he's one of the few guys that he had as a potential to be a number 1 wide receiver out of this draft class. I think he had him and I think Tet were the two that he was like, yeah, I can see those guys becoming a true like number 1 wide receiver out of this group. So, Dusty's done a lot of good work on like, you can tell there's moments where he's definitely running the wrong route or he doesn't quite have the spacing and stuff, but even in those moments he's open. Like it's the ultimate catch-22 where it's like,
well, it reminds me of backyard football.
Yep.
When you're out there with your friends and you say, hey, go run this route, and they don't run the route, but they still manage to get to the spot where you make the play on it.
And I jokingly responded to one of Dusty's, the one I responded to Dusty saying like, he gets separation, he back shoulders out of a fade. This is a really good, this is a really good play no matter who the receiver is, but especially out of a rookie who's missed a bunch of time as well. Like the skills are there, the hands are strong, all that kind of stuff. The athleticism is dynamic. And I did joke that I said, well, it's a good thing this quarterback will just huck it to whoever and isn't going to do the, I don't care that he's open, he's not supposed to be there, and like ice him out kind of thing. And
yeah,
like Jordan is honestly at, I just need someone to throw the ball to, please. Like I don't want to say Jordan doesn't care because you do all the like, he does throw with anticipation, he does understand his playbook, he's pre-snap adjusting all that kind of stuff, and he's expecting certain people to be in certain places. but you can tell that he trusts the kid already. Like he's just putting jump balls up to him. He put 2 jump balls up to him against the Broncos, and one connected for the big slot fade, and one was a big DPI. And yes, Broncos fans are anti Green Bay fans. It was DPI. I don't.
Well, I was going to ask you. We have some Broncos fans that went over on our YouTube feed when I put up the short of you ripping apart the Broncos for their stupidity and their assholeness. Do you want to call them out and have your say, or you just want to let it roll?
All I'm gonna say is like those 2 things that they said.
Well, there's a third one. So here, let me read them all.
Okay.
So the first main one is obviously that was a deserved shove. You run that close to me and through the middle of my conversation with a teammate on purpose. I'm going to return that disrespect back with a shove and a comment. And that's from a Caleb Sloan 8531. Then there's the Denver one from Denver 1, WON, from Ductless Plushvac. And then the newest one is from Zaya Heat NM, says cry, 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 because y'all lost.
Yeah. So whatever. Like for the ones that Denver won, like, okay, cool. It doesn't excuse the fact that your team is a bunch of dumb shits. And then for the first guy, again, what the fuck are they doing on the Packers sideline? And for the you choose to run through, Rashawn wasn't the first one to run through. Like, or I don't think he was. And even if he was, it's the Packers sideline. The teams always run right off the sideline on the field to their sideline when they come out of the tunnel. And like, it's not like Rashawn bumped the guy. And yeah, to say like, oh, we were having a conversation. You were clearly standing like freaking like banner holders on opposite sides of a finish line at a marathon. It's not like Rashawn like knifed between, like shouldered the two of you apart or anything like that. So, you know what? Like, they can enjoy their 11-game win streak. They can, yeah, you're right. You won. You get to talk shit and all that kind of stuff. But just don't cry to anyone else when someone does smack the shit out of one of your dumbasses for doing stupid shit like that. Like, that shit's on tape. And if those same 2 guys try to do stupid shit like that on another game, one of them is probably coming off with their helmet in crooked. So, whatever. Like I said, and what's annoying about that is it's probably AI or some kind of bot, but even if it's not, it's like you only listen to the parts you wanted to hear. Because I did say, from the Packers' point of view, you can't fall for that shit. Like, and there were definitively Packers players who got too revved up. Like I said, Kingsley and Ogbury, you cannot get pent up by shit like that and have strike 3 dumbass penalty moments during a game. Keyshawn Nixon cannot have he's already got his head running too hot for his own good, and you cannot give yourself extra reasons to go doing stupid shit in the game. So, like, I think it's cheap and stupid, but at the same time, my bigger point was the Packers, you can't fall for that shit. And that's the only part that I'm kind of irritated at, is I'm like, you missed the whole point of it. Like, yeah, I did call you out because I think it's stupid and I think it was really dumb that those 2 ding-dongs were standing by our sideline, and no, that reasoning from Caleb doesn't make any fucking sense. But at the same time, the bigger point I had was the Packers, you can't fall for stupid stuff like that. Don't stoop. Don't be idiots too. But whatever.
And we didn't blame anybody but the Packers for losing.
Yep.
So it's not like we sat here and whined about Denver did this, Denver did that, and that's why the Packers lost. No, the Packers shot themselves in the foot.
All I said about that is, like, I'm not surprised that a Sean Payton team went to Goon University again. It's kind of just who he is.
Well, you did use some expletives and added.
I do think that if he was the fat one, he would be the one taking shit, not McCarthy. I literally think that he gets off scot-free because McCarthy is like kind of a dopey, chubby guy. Like, if you stand the 2 of them next to each other, McCarthy's the dopey looking chubby guy, and Peyton, Peyton's older, but he's the like more like he was the whiz kid, all that kind of stuff when he was the offensive savant. but it's like you look at who's actually had more like career success as a coach. It's obviously it sucks because McCarthy didn't make it back to a Super Bowl either, but who actually made it to more championship games? Who outperformed expectations and stuff? It was McCarthy, honestly. So, you know,
And McCarthy never got suspended for a season because he let his players get away with a bounty gate.
yeah. So that's all I was saying about your coach is that, yeah, he's still the same douchebag that I've always thought he was. So that said, like, you know, there's a song that I'm hoping we're getting to be able to sing come Saturday night. Probably sing it regardless of whatever happens in the game. But hey, like, just go. Like I said, the goal for the Packers this week is get up off the mat, win this game, take back your lead in the NFC North, and just try to get the number 2 seed in the conference. Like the 1 seed, it's gonna take basically you need Seattle and I almost said St. Louis. You need Seattle and the Rams to lose 2 games in 3 weeks. So one of them's going to lose this week and then you got to like root for other stuff. It's kind of it's out of the realm of possibility.
I'm not even worried about seeding. Just get in the playoffs and be smart about how you play.
I do just want as many home games, the potential for as many home games as you can get, especially because who would be coming to Lambeau potentially in those scenarios and all that kind of stuff. So, but
I get that, but their last Super Bowl run came on all away games, so maybe that'll give them more hype if they do that again.
Yeah, main thing, just no more injuries. Like they're at the point. Like I know there was a lot of, like you said, there was definitely an overconflation of like how cooked the season is and stuff. My reaction to that was if they've lost all 4 of those guys, they're fucked. Like they are just flat out screwed because that is too much talent. As long as you can, like you said, as long as you can get into the dance and the 3 guys who are not on IR are back by the end of I would prefer by the end of the season so you're in rhythm and all that kind of shit. But as long as they're back at some point for the playoffs and healthy, this team still has enough talent. And like I said, half of why I was so like down after the game was because of the injuries, and it's just like you're so close to being there and you get hurt at the 1 yard line kind of thing. But the other side of it is this league is so inconsistent. Everyone is so hot and cold, up and down this season. Even the Rams, Devontae is out with a hamstring injury this week, and like that's gonna dog him for another couple weeks and stuff. So like, what's there? Darnold hasn't looked. I know they just played, but that's how much of that is playing Atlanta. The 2 games before that where he played some real defense, he did not look very good. So yeah, like we'll see. Or Atlanta was in the middle. The Colts on and then the Vikings of all teams, he didn't look very good against the 2 games around that. So it's like just get in with your opportunity and like you said, just make the most of it. So yeah, just get in the dance, like you said. But I do want to see them take control of their situation and make the most of their opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. Like, yeah, get in the dance, and that's all they need is that shot. And you know, maybe they need I was going to call him McCarthy. Jesus, thanks a lot, Quano. LaFleur said that, or no, was it LaFleur or was it Halfley said that Micah was going to be around the building for the rest of the season. And, maybe he needs to pull the old win one for the Gipper type speech and really get these guys going.
In like Lucas, I know I was going to say Lucas but no, Wyatt's on IR. So he just needs to be in Lucas's ear and like, I think Lucas is at that point where it's like he just needs people to remind him like you're really good, like you're really talented, kind of thing. The technique, the skill level has been up. This you can tell he's being coached up much better. He's being utilized to his strengths a lot better this season, and I think Micah is one of those guys that he can just kind of like Flavor Flav you up kind of thing and stuff. So, and there is one thing that I'm keeping an eye on is like, do Rashawn and Lucas get turned loose a little more? Like, were they being like within the pass rush scheme? Was it like funnel as much stuff to Micah as possible or like wall off for Micah? Because after Micah got injured, you did see Rashawn and Lucas kind of just like go for broke with like, more like relentless pass rush moves, more than we've seen either of them. Even when like Lucas, before he got injured, they kind of just went for broke with some pass rush moves in the end of that Denver game than they had at other points of the season. So I'm kind of curious to see how that looks. And like I said, Hafley's going to have to get creative again. And, he was being a little more creative as the season went on. But right now, you can't just expose the whole playbook, but he's got to go back to who he was last year and what this team was last year. And because like I said, he shouldn't have leaned on that luxury like he did all season, but now you don't have it. So, like, what are you going to do?
I don't know if he leaned on the luxury as much as the luxury helped him,
It's a chicken and egg thing. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's hard not to scheme things up for a guy that's constantly wrecking offensive lines and that. So, but yeah, it is. And I do think, and I also think it helps that Lucas is getting a little bit more healthy as each week goes through, and that's why he can turn things up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I do think, even though they haven't been playing the greatest, the D tackles have been, helping out in a way because they're not undersized. They are actual D tackle guys in there. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm thrown for a loop that it's a Saturday
now
night
that you
again.
mentioned that, I am curious if like Riley or Bohanna starts this week, because last week it was Brooks and Wooden. I'm really curious if they start one of the two big guys at nose tackle this game, because Chicago started to get some movement on the ground on inside runs late in the game. They're still more of an outside zone team, but I do wonder if Hafley kind of says like, no, we're going with beef to start the game, and we're going to just shut that shit down from the start. But we won't keep you guys here any longer. We'll just put a bow on it. We'll do the recap show after the fact, and hopefully, like I said, we'll be singing the night away with a certain specific song. But yep, just we're gonna do the post game show. Please check us out on the website ohanapackers.org. Support us through the shop. Check us out on social medias at Ohana_Packers, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram, Ohana Packers Edition on Facebook. I'm really finding it funny that, we had fans of other teams who found us via search on YouTube on the live show. It goes outside of the usual 13 of you that we're used to being around. True North shout out. But we just want to thank you for being along for the ride. And let's just, we've got 3 more guaranteed games, and it's up to the Packers to guarantee a few more. So for Joe, I might go Pack Go, and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.